The Answer of the Suffragist by Lady Margaret Sackville, 1881 to 1963. Read for LibriVox.org. The Answer of the Suffragist. We will die for you in your need, but we will not give you bread, nor the wage of bread, though ye seek through the length and breadth of the land, O woman whom we adore, said the world. And the woman said, This is a hard saying, O world, and we do not understand. But open your doors at least, let us tread an equal way. Since live we must, we ask no aid, we will fight alone. For our daily bread we will fight. But the world said, Nay, what will ye do in the mart who should sit crowned on a throne? Alas, said the woman, but thrones we have none, and the years roll by. Wilt thou keep us then? Wilt thou give us aid, lest we spend our youth homeless, toiling alone? But the world said, Live ye or die, for what has the world to do with homeless women in sooth? But ah, cried the woman, world who adores us, how shall we live? Since closed is the door of life, and thou hast the key. Have ye no other gift, no better counsel to give? Said the world, We are old and heavy with slumber. What has been shall be. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The World's Defense, a reply to Lady Margaret Sackville, by C.W. Read for LibriVox.org. The World's Defense. You read not our meaning truly, O woman whom we adore. Have we not opened all paths to you, and only closed one door? For yours are the ways of honor, of art and sacrifice, of influence, skill, and service, beyond a measure or price. And yet you would help to frame the laws that bind and make, forgetting your nobler mission of binding the hearts that break, of soothing the suffering children, and giving the intimate touch of your womanly love and sympathy that mean so much. We are not slothful to mark the time, yours the delay and blame. We try with patience yet to prove the wisdom of your claim. But not by riot and ruin, by taunting threat and noise, is justice changed to freedom and woes to highest joys. 'Tis you, O woman whom we adore, who holds the golden key of life and love and power and the city that is to be. 'Tis you who must nourish the hidden good with your work and prayer and tears, and hasten the harvest of righteousness, the glory of future years. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Approach of Winter by William Carlos Williams. Read for LibriVox.org by M. Lee. The half-stripped trees, struck by a wind together, bending all, the leaves flutter dryly and refuse to let go, or, driven like hail, stream bitterly out to one side and fall where the salvia's hard carmine, like no leaf that ever was, edge the bare garden. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
An Autumn Rose Tree by Michael Earls. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. It seemed too late for roses when I walked abroad today. October stood in silence. by the hedges all the way. Yet did I hear a singing, and I saw a red rose tree. In fields so gray with autumn, how could song or roses be? Oh, it was never maple, nor the dogwood's coat of fire, no sage with scarlet banners, nor the poppy's vested choir. The breeze that may be music, when the summer lawns are fair, will have no heart for singing in the autumn's mournful air. As I went up the roadway under cold and lonely skies, a song I heard, a rose tree waved to me in glad surprise, a red cloak and a ribbon round the braided hair of jet, and redder cheeks than roses of a little Margaret. Now God is good in autumn, He can name the birds that sing, He loves the hearts of children more than flowery fields of spring, and when the years of winter gray with Margaret will be, God will find her love still blossom like a red rose tree. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Excerpt from the Ballad of Reading Gaol by Oscar Wilde. Read for LibriVox.org by Joanna Michael Hoyt. I know not whether laws be right or whether laws be wrong. All that we know who lie in jail is that the wall is strong, and that each day is like a year whose days are long. But this I know, that every law that men have made for man, since first man took his brother's life and the sad world began, but straws the wheat and saves the chaff with a most evil fan. This too I know, and wise it were if each could know the same, that every prison that men build is built with bricks of shame, and bound with bars, lest Christ should see how men their brothers maim. With bars they blur the gracious moon, and blind the goodly sun, and they do well to hide their hell, for in it things are done that Son of God nor Son of Man ever should look upon. The vilest deeds, like poison weeds, bloom well in prison air. It is only what is good in man that wastes and withers there. Pale anguish keeps the heavy gate, and the warder is despair. For they starve the little frightened child till it weeps both night and day, and they scourge the weak, and flog the fool, and gibe the old and grey. And some grow mad, and all grow bad, and none a word may say. Each narrow cell in which we dwell is a foul and dark latrine, and the fetid breath of living death chokes up each grated screen. And all but lust is turned to dust in humanity's machine. The brackish water that we drink creeps with a loathsome slime, and the bitter bread they weigh in scales is full of chalk and lime. And sleep will not lie down, but walks wild-eyed and cries to time. But though lean hunger and green thirst like asp with adder fight, we have little care of prison fare. For what chills and kills outright is that every stone one lifts by day becomes one's heart by night. With midnight always in one's heart and twilight in one's cell, we turn the crank or tear the rope, each in his separate hell, and the silence is more awful far than the sound of a brazen bell. And never a human voice comes near to speak a gentle word, and the eye that watches through the door is pitiless and hard. And by all forgot we rot and rot, with soul and body marred. And thus we rust life's iron chain, degraded and alone, and some men curse, and some men weep, and some men make no moan. But God's eternal laws are kind, and break the heart of stone. End of excerpt. This recording is in the public domain.
Batter My Heart, Three-Personed God by John Donne. Read for LibriVox.org by N.R. Collard. Batter my heart, three-personed God, for you as yet but knock, breathe, shine, and seek to mend. That I may rise and stand, o'erthrow me, and bend your force to break, blow, burn, and make me new. I, like an usurped town to another due, labour to admit you, but oh, to no end. Reason, your viceroy in me should defend, but is captived and proves weak or untrue. Yet dearly I love you, and would be loved fain, but am betrothed unto your enemy. Divorce me, untie or break that knot again. Take me to you, imprison me, for I, except you enthrall me, never shall be free, nor ever chaste, except you ravish me. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Beautiful Hands by Emma M. H. Gates. Read for LibriVox.org by Alex. Such beautiful, beautiful hands. They're neither white nor small, and you, I know, would scarcely think that they were fair at all. I've looked on hands whose form and hue a sculptor's dream might be, yet are these aged, wrinkled hands most beautiful to me. Such beautiful, beautiful hands! Though heart were weary and sad, these patient hands kept toiling on, that the children might be glad. I almost weep when looking back to childhood's distant day. I think how these hands rested not when mine were at their play. Such beautiful, beautiful hands. They're growing feeble now, and time and pain have left their mark on hand and heart and brow. Alas, alas, the nearing time, and the sad, sad day to me, when nearth the daisies out of sight these hands must folded be. But oh, beyond the shadowy lands, where all is bright and fair, I know full well these dear old hands will palms of victory bear. When crystal streams through endless years flow over golden sands, and where the old are young again, I'll clasp my mother's hands. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Beginning by Rupert Brooke, read for LibriVox.org by Peter Tomlinson. Some day I shall rise and leave my friends and seek you again through the world's far ends. You whom I found so fair, touch of your hands and smell of your hair. My only God in the days that were, my eager feet shall find you again. Though the sullen years and the mark of pain have changed you wholly, for I shall know, how could I forget, having loved you so, in the sad half-light of evening, the face that was all my sunrising. So then at the ends of the earth I'll stand and hold you fiercely by either hand. And seeing your age and ashen hair, I'll curse the thing that once you were, because it is changed and pale and old, lips that were scarlet, hair that was gold. And I loved you before you were old and wise, when the flame of youth was strong in your eyes, and my heart is sick with memories. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Call by Rupert Brooke, read for LibriVox.org by Peter Tomlinson. Out of the nothingness of sleep, the slow dreams of eternity, there was a thunder on the deep. I came because you called to me. I broke the night's primeval bars. I dared the old abysmal curse, and flashed through ranks of frightened stars suddenly on the universe. The eternal silences were broken. Hell became heaven as I passed. What shall I give you as a token, a sign that we have met at last? I'll break and forge the stars anew, shatter the heavens with a song, immortal in my love for you, because I love you very strong. Your mouth shall mock the old and wise, your laugh shall fill the world with flame. I'll write upon the shrinking skies the scarlet splendour of your name. till heaven cracks and hell thereunder dies in her ultimate mad fire, and darkness falls with scornful thunder on dreams of men and men's desire. Then only in the empty spaces, death walking very silently shall fear the glory of our faces through all the dark infinity. So, clothed about with perfect love, the eternal end shall find us one, alone above the night, above the dust of the dead gods, alone. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Carmen 64, The Marriage of Peleus and Thetis, by Catullus, read for LibriVox.org by Lenny. Of old, as bards relate, a ship of pine, grown where the lofty crest of Pelion stands, traversed the realm of Neptune, waste of brine, to Phasis' waves and great Aeetes' lands. A chosen band of youths, an Argive crew, to win the fleece and Colchian scenes to view, dared through the salt sea waves undaunted sweep, with oars of pine ploughing the azure deep. Pallas herself, who ever doth retain in each proud citadel her sacred fane, the car which flew before the scudding breeze constructed, welding to the curved keel the pine beams. Thus the inexperienced seas first taught the rapid rush of barks to feel. When through the crested waves the ship's prow broke, and seethed the foam beneath the rower's stroke, then eager faces peered from billows white, faces of Nereids wondering at the sight. And then it was that mortal eyes could scan, such sight had ne'er before been seen by men, fair naked forms round with the billows rave, with white breasts glistening o'er the tossing wave. And then, for love of Thetis, Peleus burned, nor was his mortal love by Thetis spurned. Great Jove himself assented to the tie, such was the grace of gods who dwelt on high. O race of heroes, whom the earth did bear in golden ages, blessed beyond compare, hail thou, great race of ancestry divine! All hail thou too, our Mother Earth benign! Full oft will I accost ye in my strain, thee too, great guardian of Thessalia's plain, Peleus, most honoured in thy marriage, when great Jove himself, the king of gods and men, gave up to thee his claim to Thetis' love, and thee a mortal matched with gods above. Didst thou that lovely offspring of the sea possess, and Thetis give her child to thee, an ocean who surrounds the earth's wide plain, consent that thou his daughter's love shouldst gain? When the revolving year brought round the time for Peleus' nuptials, then Thessalia's clime poured forth her joyous throngs. The palace stands crowded with guests and mirthful wedding bands. Rich gifts they bring, joy shines in every face, all come the marriage of their prince to grace. Cyrus they leave, and Tempe's lovely glen, Larissa, Crenan are deserted then. Pharsala sees them crowding through her gate. The land lies fallow, lazy steers await at ease the unused yoke. No pruner now checks the wild growth of leafy forest bough. No gardener now the vine with curved prong clears. No ox deep furrows through the upland tears. Rotted with rust, the plowshares idle stand. No sound of toil's heard throughout the land. But in the palace, what a splendor glows! Rich gold and silver in refulgent rows, in every furthest nook, while thrones gleam white with ivory, and cups reflect the light in glittering order on the festive board, brilliant with treasure such as kings afford. And in the mansion's center, lo, there stands the genial couch, the work of cunning hands, whose polished ivory attracts the view, o'erlaid with cloth of brilliant purple hue. Here, on the coverlet's rich ample fold, figures of men are seen, heroes of old, and deeds performed by mighty ones of yore, and wrought with art. Here, on the Naxian shore, lone Ariadney watches Theseus' sails sink on the ocean, borne by favouring gales. Scarce can she trust her eyes, which see her guest faithless departing, and her maddened breast throbs with despairing rage, while round her lies the beach, which met her half-awakened eyes, deserted, when she first from treacherous sleep arose in loneliness. But on the deep, meanwhile, the flying traitor plies the oar. His vows are scattered to the careless wind. She stands amid the seaweed on the shore, like some carved stone bacchant, while her mind tosses on waves of woe which ever rise, still gazing seawards with despairing eyes. Her yellow hair streams wild, the coif unbound, her sashes loosed, her swelling bosom show, her garments slip unheeded to the ground, the salt waves catch and toss them to and fro. What recks she of her coif or loosened zone? Theseus and her sad fate she heeds alone. Her mind distracted, no fair hope can show. Her soul is lost in labyrinths of woe. Unhappy maiden, on that fatal day, when Theseus came, the monster's destined prey, from curved Piraeus with the doomed band, and reached the stern Gortinian monarch's land, then her the goddess struck with love's fell dart, and sowed the seeds of sorrow in her heart. For thus they tell the tale, a cruel jest, avenged the murder of the stranger guest, the son of Minos, and the sire decreed that chosen youths and maids of tender age should every year atone the shameless deed, and fall mute victims to the monster's rage. Sore lay this fate upon the dwindling town, till Theseus' mighty soul did pity swell, and he himself a victim would lay down his life for Athens, which he loved so well, and thus would stay the doom for evermore which sent the living dead to Creta's shore. So pressing on with favouring gales he came to haughty Minos' court of princely fame. Him saw with eager glance the royal maid, nursed in her mother's tender arms she lay, on her chaste bed, in beauty's charms arrayed, like flowers glowing neath the spring sun's ray. Delicious odours round her fill the air, such on Eurota's banks the myrtles bear. Nor did she turn from him her longing eyes, till every fibre of her, being thrilled, fired with immortal love which never dies, and all her soul a burning passion filled. O thou dread love, who with a cruel heart the cause of all distracted madness art, thou youthful god, who minglest joy with teen, and thou of Golgi's town the Cyprian queen. With what a sea of woe have ye oppressed the maiden sighing for her fair-haired guest? How sinks her heart, fainting with nameless fear, more yellow pale than gold her cheeks appear, when, with the monster nobly to contend, Theseus departed, there to meet his end, slain for his country, or to win fair fame, and live for ever with a deathless name. What unvoiced vows and promises she made, all in vain, imploring heaven's aid. Her vows availed the hero chief to save, but fatal were, alas, to her who gave. For as the hurricane's wild whirling force uproots the lofty oak or resinous fir, which crashing falls, and in its earthward course involves in ruin all things far and near. So fell the monster after direful fight, his savage strength o'ercome by Theseus' might. Prostrate he lies, with Theseus o'er him there, its tossing horns wound but the empty air. The hero, saved from death, his path retraced, and through the labyrinth's long windings paced, holding the clue, for fear his footsteps stray, and in the mazy puzzle lose their way. But why desert the subject of my song, to tell of hapless Ariadne's wrong? How, leaving father, mother, sisters, home, with Theseus on the ocean wave to roam, she, unforgetful of her mother's woe, whose love her wild despairing wails could show, preferred the joys which faithless Theseus swore, and with him fled to Nexus' wave-beat shore, where, waked one morning, as in sleep she lay, she saw her treacherous lover sail away. Shrill cries she uttered, so the story goes. Rage and despair her heaving bosom shows. Full oft would she the rugged hills ascend, her gaze on ocean's wide expanse to bend, or rush to meet the salt waves as they rise, lifting her raiment soft to bare her thighs. And her last moan she made, while tears expressed, and sobs the tumult of her anguished breast. And is it thus, perfidious wretch, that here thou leavest me upon this island drear? Me, who for thee left fatherland and home? Wilt thou then bear the perjury of my doom back to thy country, and from hence depart, the gods neglected, with unfeeling heart? Can nothing change thy cruel reckless mind? Does no fond pity yet remain behind? Not these the promises thou once didst make, when I abandoned all for Theseus' sake? Wretch that I am! Ah, never was it this thou toldst me of, but longed for marriage bliss, and Hymen's joys. But all that thou didst swear is scattered to the vain and wandering air. Henceforth, let no confiding woman trust the oaths of men. They swear but for their lust, and when they wish to win, no vows they spare. They promise all things to a trustful ear. But when they've gained their aim, what recks it then of broken vows or perjuries to men? For I, lest I should wanting seem to thee, snatch thee from out the whirling pool of death, and chose to lose a brother, and for me, this the reward, and this thy plighted faith, that I should die, and it should be my doom to lie unburied, no religious tomb or funeral rites be mine, but birds of prey and savage beasts should tear my limbs away. Wert thou beneath some lonely hill crag born of a fierce lioness, or did in scorn the sea disgorge thee from the waves which foam engender there? What Syrtis was thy home? What ravening Scylla or Charybdis wild, who works destruction, owns thee as her child, that thou requitest thus the boon of life? E'en hadst thou not desired me for wife, from horror at my father's grim decree, could I not then have servant been to thee, lived in thy palace court, and toil most blessed, prepare thy couch with coverlets for rest, have washed thy feet, have been thy humble slave? Ah, how much better than this living grave! But why do I thus madly loud complain? The air unfeeling cannot know my pain. It hath no ears, no tongue to answer back. Ah me! E'en now he holds his onward track. On the deep main, on shore the seaweed lies, but now no human form can meet my eyes. Relentless fate engrudges ears to heed my poor complaint in my extremest need. Almighty Jove, would that in former time Cecropian barks had ne'er reached Creta's clime! Would that the faithless seaman ne'er had moored the ship which carried that dread fright on board, the tribute to the bull, as yet untamed, to Creta's coast, and that he ne'er had claimed our friendship, he, that villain, whose sweet art hid deep the counsels of his cruel heart. Now, whither shall I go? What hope is left? Shall I return to Crete of joy bereft? Alas, the cruel sea with swelling tides me from my country evermore divides. How could I hope my father's aid, whom I deserted with a stranger foe to fly, stained with the guilt of brother's blood, and he, my lover, has his love still charms for me, his love, who bending now his oars in flight plows the deep ocean, vanished from my sight. The lonely island hath no shelter here, the waves surround me, no escape is there, no hope, no means of flight, a death-like gloom, silent and drear dwells in this living tomb. But ere my eyes wax dim in death's dark night, ere yet the senses leave this wearied frame, the gods will I invoke my wrongs to right, and call upon the heavenly powers by name. Wherefore, ye Furies, awful sisters, who send upon men's misdeeds the vengeance due, yet now do I accost, hear ye my prayer, whose lowering brows are wreathed with snaky hair, which show the fury which your bosom fills. Come hither, hear my piteous tale of ills, which I, unhappy, helpless, mad with love, pour forth. Your ruth will truthful words to move, and since my words are true, let not my wail be disregarded as an idle tale, but may that savage heart which Theseus bore, which left me lonely on this desert shore, involve in ruin him and all his race. Grant me, dread goddesses, at least this grace. Such wails she uttered from her mournful breast, invoking vengeance on her cruel guest. The mighty thunderer his dread assent nodded propitious, and the sound was sent through earth's wide plains and ocean's waves afar, and shook through heaven's vault each glittering heart. Blank darkness on the mind of Theseus fell. His sire's injunction, which he learned so well, and kept with constant heart, he now forgot. No sail was hoisted to announce his lot, to show the son escaped the monster's rage, alive returned to bless his father's age. For, as the story goes, when first the fleet left Athens' port divine and sailed for Crete, old Aegis, ere the parting yet was done, gave such injunction to his gallant son: My child beloved, my only child, more dear than length of life through many a rolling year, restore thy sire's declining years to bless, whom now I send to face green danger's stress. Since fortune and for fame thy generous glow now snatch thee from me, loath to let thee go, for not yet have these eyes enjoyed their fill of gazing on thee. It is heaven's will, but with no joyful heart I bid thee go, nor shalt thou signals of good fortune show. But first will I pour forth my wails and tears, with scattered dust defile my aged ears. Then will I hang sails of a dusky hue upon thy mast, that all our grief may view. Iberian sails stained with a rust like dye, sign of my woe, my burning agony. But if the goddess of Itani's shrine, who erst our race and Athens' walls divine swore to defend, shall grant this grace to thee, to slay the monster and the land set free, then keep this bidding in a constant heart, nor from thy memory let my words depart. When first the Athenian hills shall meet thy view, put off the yards the sails of dusky hue, and let the cordage hoist fair canvas white, that when the wished-for ship shall meet my sight, then I may know, while joy shall fill my mind of thy return, a prosperous age to find. This bidding Theseus with obedience due had minded, but as clouds through the deep blue, driven by winds, leave the hilltops behind, so passed his sire's behest from Theseus' mind. Meanwhile, old Aegis, bowed with anxious fears, wasting his eyes with never-ceasing tears, from the high battlements of Pallas' fane, scanning with longing eyes the watery plain, soon as he saw the dark sail on the sea, threw himself headlong, thinking sure that his son, had fallen low by cruel fate. So Theseus entered the ancestral gate of his proud palace with a mourning train, and thus returned upon his head again the woe he wrought on Naxos' rocky shore, when him the ship from Minos' daughter bore. She then, meanwhile, the fast receding bark, watching remains, a prey to anguish dark. The other side, fair Bacchus meets our view, and with him come a quaint satiric crew, and Nysa-born Silene with him rove, thee, Ariadney, seeking, fired with love. Evo, lo, they shout with frenzied strain, while dancing till the rocks resound again. Some Therses, ivy-pointed, loudly shake, and some the limbs of oxen rend and tear. Some twist about their heads the writhing snake, while others dark mysterious emblems bear in hollow chests. The vulgar crowd in vain aspire the knowledge of these rites to gain. Some dash the timbrel with extended hand, or on the rounded brass soft sounds command. The pipes shrill squeak, anon the trumpets blare, and fill with horrid din the noisy air. Figures like these upon the polished bed, the coverlet with richest hues displayed. And when the guests had gazed their fill, their place was stained by noble forms of godlike race. As when with gentle breath the zephyr stirs the tranquil sea, when Eos first appears, hard by the threshold of the journeying sun, the plashing waves before the breezes run with rippling laughter, soon the fresh wind's might drives the crisp rose more frequent to the sight, which floating far gleam back the purple light. So they departing gleam, each on his road, and leave the threshold of the king's abode. To them succeeds foremost amid the throng old Chiron, bearing sylvan gifts along. Come from high Peleus' crest, his basket fills all the rich produce of Thessalian hills. Flowers too he bears. To them succeeds foremost amid the throng old Chiron, bearing sylvan gifts along. Come from high Peleus' crest, his basket fills all the rich produce of Thessalian hills. Flowers too he bears, such as near running rills grow nurtured by the warm Favonian air, in mingled chaplets wrought with tender care. The smiling mansion, filled with fragrance sweet, with pleasant laughter seems his gifts to greet. Next come Peleus from green Tempest glade, which hanging woods surround with darkling shade. Tempe he leaves, and Nessos waters, where to Dorian strains dance bands of maidens fair. Nor comes he empty-handed. The tall bay and stately beech, with roots all torn away, the waving cypress and the nodding plane, and Phaeton's sister, so the poets feign, the slight and limber poplar, bearing these he comes, and plants the house around with trees, so that the porch, bedecked with wavy green, should glimmer through a pleasant leafy screen. Next, sage Prometheus comes, of ancient race. The marks of his dread doom the eye can trace, who erst of heaven's fierce wrath endured the shock, hanging with chained limbs from rugged rock. Then comes from heaven the sire of gods and men, with him his spouse divine. Thee, Phoebus, then, alone he leaves in heaven's wide spacious plain. With thee thine only sister too remains, whose favourite shrine on Idra's summit stands. She too, with thee, despised the nuptial bands which joined fair Thetis and brave Peleus' hands. Now, when the gods their snowy limbs reclined, the board was filled with cheer of various kind. Meanwhile, the Parcae, trembling, bent with years, chanting begin to utter fate aloud. Rose-colored fillets bind their snowy hairs, white robes with purple hem their figures shroud. Working forever at the web of doom, the unceasing labor of the loom. Their left hands hold the distaff, while the wool runs swift and smooth around the whirling spool, formed with upturned fingers, while their thumbs bent downwards twist the fibre as it comes. The ants to equal, with their teeth they bite, with woolly threads their withered lips are white. Before their feet baskets of osiers stand, to hold the fleeces, and the mystic band, drawing the thread, sing with clear-sounding cry the song of fate, the chaunt of doom on high, which no succeeding age should falsify. Hear thou, great Lord, whose deeds of valor claim a newer glory for thy princely name. Most glorious in thy Son that is to be, hear what the sisters now reveal to thee. A truthful oracle on this glad day, hear thou of Thessaly the prop and stay. And ye by whom the doom of men is sped, run, spindles, run, draw out the fateful thread. Lo, Hesperus draws nigh, the joys of love, which every eager bridegroom pants to prove. Attend him, for behold thy matchless bride comes with the lucky star to seek thy side. With thee prepares to join in languorous rest, soothing with joy thy love-tormented breast, placing her tender arms beneath thy head. Run, spindles, run, draw out the fateful thread. Ne'er were such lovers joined beneath one roof, ne'er was love seen of such a mighty proof, ne'er did a mutual flame such influence shed, as when brave Peleus did with Thetis wed. Run, spindles, run, draw out the fateful thread. To you the great Achilles shall be born, whose grand heroic soul all fear shall scorn, who on the ranging course full oft shall gain the crown of victory, and along the plain then the light-bounding stag more swift shall be, whose flying back no foeman e'er shall see, whose fiery front shall fill men's minds with dread. Run, spindles, run, draw out the fateful thread. With him no hero ever shall compare, when Phrygia's plains with Trojan gore run red, when Peleus' grandson after lingering war shall o'er Troy's citadel destruction spread. Run, spindles, run, draw out the fateful thread. Mothers who mourn their sons his deeds shall own, the matchless valor given to him alone, beating the withered breast while tears they shed, casting foul ashes on the whitened head. Run, spindles, run, draw out the fateful thread. As neath a burning sun the reaper mows the whitening crops, close set in standing rows, thus shall he pile the plain with Trojan dead. Run, spindles, run, draw out the fateful thread. Scamander's waves his courage fierce shall show, whose stream joins Hellespont's swift whirling flow. His water choked with heap of Trojans slain shall warm with gore run through the ensanguined main. Such slaughter shall the mighty warriors spread. Run, spindles, run, draw out the fateful thread. Last witness to his worth that virgin fair, whose snowy limbs the tomb heaped high in air, shall on its lofty round its summit bear shall fall a sacrifice by fate most dread. Run, spindles, run, draw out the fateful thread. For when the wearied Greeks by fortune's aid shall seize the citadel which Neptune made, then shall the tomb be reddened with the gore of her whom Hecuba to Priam bore. Headless she falls, meekly she yields her life, like helpless victim 'neath the two-edged knife. To appease the hero's ghost her blood is shed. Run, spindles, run, draw out the fateful thread. Come join the loves for which ye long have sighed. Let mortal lover take immortal bride. The goddess share the eager husband's bed. Run, spindles, run, draw out the fateful thread. Soon shall the nurse essay in vain to bind the string which erst the maid's fair neck confined, the fruit of joys which Hymen's might hath sped. Run, spindles, run, draw out the fateful thread. Nor shall the mother fear lest mutual hate divide the matron from her loving mate, nor shall she failure of fair offspring dread. Run, spindles, run, draw out the fateful thread. Thus the weird sisters Peleus' happy fate with omen good in song did celebrate. For in those days, when men the gods on high still feared and worshipped with due piety, the gods the homes of men would not despise, and oft were seen on earth by mortal eyes. Full oft, revisiting from realms above, his glittering temples would the mighty Jove see when the sacred festival came round, 100 bulls fall low upon the ground. Full oft would Bacchus from Parnassus' crest descend and drive before a noisy rout of dancing Thyiads with god-maddened breast and harem bound, yelling with frenzied shout. Them would all Delphi eager rush to meet, and the loved god with smoking altars greet. Oft mid death-bearing strife would Mars appear, or she whose fame is built on Tritus' mere. Or the Rhamnusian maid in armed bands would urge to combat with divine commands. But when the earth with direful guilt was stained, when in men's minds no justice yet remained, when blood in fratricidal strife was shed, when sons forgot to mourn their parents dead, when for his child's swift fate the father sighed, that he might win his firstborn's promised bride, when the incestuous mother sought to gain her son's embrace, unconscious of the stain, and feared not to defile the household fane, all right and wrong in dire confusion blent, with guilt's fell madness in men's bosoms sent, turned the just minds of righteous gods away. And thus it is that in the light of day no mortal eyes a god can ever greet, no thrones of men are graced by godlike feet. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Comfort by Lionel Johnson. Read for LibriVox.org by M. Lee. To Claude Schuster. Winter is at the door. Winter, winter, winter is at the door. For all along the worn oak floor waver the carpets, and before the once warm southern orchard wall the last October peaches fall. In vain behind their fellows all, belated. Winter is come apace. Winter, winter, winter is come apace. The fireside is the cheeriest place to wear unfeigned a merry face, while music tells, though now 'tis chill, how merle and maid and mavis will, when spring comes dancing down the hill, be mated. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Cry of the Cicada by Matsuo Basho, translated by William George Aston. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. The cry of the cicada gives no sign that presently it will die. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Daddy Longlegs and the Fly by Edward Lear, read for LibriVox.org by Nathan Lewin. Once Mr. Daddy Longlegs, dressed in brown and gray, walked about upon the sands upon a summer's day, and there among the pebbles, when the wind was rather cold, he met with Mr. Floppy Fly, all dressed in blue and gold. And as it was too soon to dine, they drank some periwinkle wine, and played an hour or two, or more, at battlecock and shuttledore. Said Mr. Daddy Longlegs to Mr. Floppy Fly, "Why do you never come to court? I wish you to tell me why. All gold and shine, and dress so fine, you'd quite delight the court. Why do you never go at all? I really think you ought. And if you went, you'd see such sights, such rugs and jugs and candle lights, and more than all, the king and queen, one in red and one in green." "Oh, Mr. Daddy Longlegs," said Mr. Floppy Fly, "it's true I never go to court, and I will tell you why. If I had 6 long legs like yours, at once I'd go to court. But oh, I can't, because my legs are so extremely short. And I'm afraid the king and queen, one in red and one in green, would say aloud, 'You are not fit, you Fly, to come to court a bit.'" "Oh, Mr. Daddy Longlegs," said Mr. Floppy Fly, "I wish you'd sing one little song, one Mumbayan melody. You used to sing so awful well in former days gone by, but now you never sing at all. I wish you'd tell me why. For, if you would, the silvery sound would please the shrimps and cockles round, and all the crabs would gladly come to hear you sing a hum-de-dum." Said Mr. Daddy Longlegs, "I can never sing again, and if you wish I'll tell you why, although it gives me pain. For years I cannot hum a bit, or sing the smallest song, and this the dreadful reason is, my legs are grown too long. My 6 long legs, all here and there, oppress my bosom with despair, and if I stand or lie or sit, I cannot sing one single bit." So Mr. Daddy Longlegs and Mr. Floppy Fly sat down in silence by the sea and gazed upon the sky. They said, "This is a dreadful thing, the world has all gone wrong, since one has legs too short by half, the other much too long. One never more can go to court, because his legs have grown too short. The other cannot sing a song, because his legs have grown too long." Then Mr. Daddy Longlegs and Mr. Floppy Fly rushed downward to the foamy sea with one spontaneous cry. And there they found a little boat whose sails were pink and grey, and off they sailed among the waves, far and far away. They sailed across the silent main, and reached a great Grumboolian plain, and there they play for evermore at battlecock and shuttledore. End of The Daddy Longlegs and the Fly by Edward Lear. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. October 2021, Israel.
Dawendene by E. Pauline Johnson. Tekahianwake, read for LibriVox.org by Sandra, 2021. There's a spirit on the river, there's a ghost upon the shore. They're chanting, they're singing through the starlight evermore, as they steal amid the silence and the shadows of the shore. You can hear them when the northern candles light the northern sky. Those pale, uncertain candle flames that shiver, dart, and die. Those dead men's icy fingertips athwart the northern sky. You can hear the ringing war cry of a long-forgotten brave echo through the midnight forest, echo o'er the midnight wave, and the northern lanterns tremble at the war cry of that brave. And you hear a voice responding, but in soft and tender song. It is Dawendene's spirit, singing, singing all night long. And the whisper of the night wind bears afar her spirit song. And the wailing pine trees murmur with their voice attuned to hers, murmur when they rouse from slumber as the night wind through them stirs, and you listen to their legend, and their voices blend with hers. There was feud, and there was bloodshed near the river by the hill, and Dawandine listened, while her very heart stood still. Would her kinsman or her lover be the victim by the hill? Who would be the great unconquered? Who come boasting how he dealt death, and show his rival's scalp lock fresh and bleeding at his belt? Who would say, "O Dawandine, look upon the death I dealt"? And she listens, 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 till a war cry rends the night, cry of her victorious lover, monarch he of all the height, and his triumph wakes the horrors, kills the silence of the night. Heart of her, it throbs so madly, then lies freezing in her breast, for the icy hand of death has chilled the brother she loved best, and her lover dealt the death blow, and her heart dies in her breast. And she hears her mother saying, "Take thy belt of wampum white, go unto yon evil savage while he glories on the height, sing and sue for peace between us, at his feet lay wampum white, lest thy kinsmen all may perish, all thy brothers and thy sire fall before his mighty hatred as the forest falls to fire. Take thy wampum pale and peaceful, save thy brothers, save thy sire." And the girl arises softly, softly slips toward the shore. Loves she well the murdered brother, loves his hated foeman more, loves and longs to give the wampum, and she meets him on the shore. Hey-ya-ho, hey-ya, hey-ya-ho, hey-ya-ho, hey-ya-ho. Peace, mighty victor, peace. I bring thee wampum white. Sheath thy knife, whose blade has tasted my young kinsman's blood tonight. Ere it drink to slake its thirsting, I have brought thee wampum white. Answers he, "O Dawandine, I will let thy kinsman be. I accept thy belt of wampum, but my hate demands for me that they give their fairest treasure, ere I let thy kinsman be. Dawandine, for thy singing, for thy suing, war shall cease. For thy name, which speaks of dawning, thou shalt be the dawn of peace. For thine eyes, whose purple shadows tell of dawn, my hate shall cease. Dawandine, child of dawning, hateful are thy kin to me. Red my fingers with their heart blood, but my heart is red for thee. Dawandine, child of dawning, wilt thou fail or follow me?" And her kinsmen still are waiting her returning from the night, waiting, waiting for her coming with her belt of wampum white, but forgetting all she follows where he leads, through day or night. There's a spirit on the river, there's a ghost upon the shore, and they sing of love and loving through the starlight evermore, as they steal amid the silence and the shadows of the shore. Hey-ya-ho, hey-ya, hey-ya-ho. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. Read for LibriVox.org by Alex. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to know that for destruction ice it is also great and would suffice. End of poem. This recording is the public domain.
Forever by Charles S. Calverley. Read for LibriVox.org by Magu Von. Forever, 'tis a single word. Our rude forefathers deemed it too. Can you imagine so absurd a view? Forever, what abysms of woe! The word reveal what frenzy, what despair. Forever, did not. It looks, ah me, how tried and tame! It fails to sadden or appall, or alas, it is not the same at all. O thou to whom it first occurred, to solder the disjoint, and dower the native language with a word of power. We bless thee, whether far or near, thy dwelling, whether dark or fair, thy kingly brow is neither here nor there, but immense heart shall be thy throne, while the great pulse of England beats, thou coiner of a word unknown to Keats. And never more must printer do, as men did long ago, but run forth into ever, bidding to be one. Forever, passion fruit it throws, o'er the dim page a gloom, a glamour, it's sweet, it's strange, and I suppose it's grammar. Forever, 'tis a single word, and yet our fathers deemed it too, nor am I confident they erred. Are you? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
For the Fallen by Lawrence Binion. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. With proud thanksgiving, a mother for her children, England mourns for her dead across the sea. Flesh of her flesh they were, spirit of her spirit, fallen in the cause of the free. Solemn the drums thrill. Death, august and royal, sings sorrow up into immortal spheres. There is music in the midst of desolation, and a glory that shines upon our tears. They went with songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning we will remember them. They mingle not with their laughing comrades again. They sit no more at familiar tables of home. They have no lot in our labor of the daytime. They sleep beyond England's foam. But where our desires are, and our hopes profound, felt as a wellspring that is hidden from sight, to the innermost heart of their own land they are known, as the stars are known to the night. As the stars that shall be bright when we are dust, moving in marches upon the heavenly plain, as the stars that are starry in the time of our darkness, to the end they remain. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Francesca da Rimini by George Gordon Lord Byron. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. From the Inferno of Dante, Canto the 5th. The land where I was born sits by the seas, upon that shore to which the Po descends, with all his followers in search of peace. Love, which the gentle heart soon apprehends, seized him for the fair person which was ta'en from me, and me even yet the mode offends. Love, who to none beloved to love again remits, seized me with wish to please, so strong that, as thou seest, yet it doth remain. Love to one death conducted us along, but Cana waits for him our life who ended. These were the accents uttered by her tongue. Since I first listened to these souls offended, I bowed my visage, and so kept it till. What think'st thou, said the bard, when I unbended and recommenced? Alas, unto such ill How many sweet thoughts, what strong ecstasies led these their evil fortune to fulfill? And then I turned unto their side my eyes, and said, Francesca, thy sad destinies have made me sorrow till the tears arise. But tell me, in the season of sweet sighs, by what and how thy love to passion rose, so as his dim desires to recognize. Then she to me, the greatest of all woes is to remind us of our happy days in misery, and that thy teacher knows. But if to learn our passion's first root praise upon thy spirit with such sympathy, I will do even as he who weeps and says, We read one day for pastime seated nigh, of Lancelot, how love enchained him too. We were alone, quite unsuspiciously, but oft our eyes met, and our cheeks in hue all o'er discoloured by that reading were. But one point only wholly us o'erthrew, when we read the long sighed for smile of her, to be thus kissed by such devoted lover, he, who from me can be divided ne'er, kissed my mouth, trembling in the act all over. Accursed was the book, and he who wrote. That day no further leaf we did uncover. While thus one spirit told us of their lot, the other wept, so that with pity's thrall I swooned, as if by death I had been smote, and fell down even as a dead body falls. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Frost at Midnight by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, read for LibriVox.org by Peter Tomlinson. The frost performed its secret ministry, unhelped by an wind. The owlet's cry came loud, and hark again, loud as before. The inmates of my cottage all at rest have left me to that solitude which suits abstruser musings, save that at my side my cradle infant slumbers peacefully. 'Tis calm indeed, so calm that it disturbs and vexes meditation with its strange and extreme silentness. Sea, hill, and wood, this populous village, sea and hill and wood, with all the numberless goings-on of life, inaudible as dreams. The thin blue flame lies on my low-burnt fire, and quivers not. Only that film which fluttered on the grate still flutters there, the sole unquiet thing. Methinks its motion in this hush of nature gives it dim sympathies with me who live, making it a companionable form, whose puny flaps and freaks the idling spirit by its own moods interprets, everywhere echo or mirror seeking of itself, and makes a toy of thought. But oh, how oft at school, with most believing mind, presageful, have I gazed upon the bars to watch that fluttering stranger, and as oft with unclosed lids already had I dreamt of my sweet birthplace, and the old church tower, whose bells, the poor man's only music, rang from morn to evening, all the hot fair day, so sweetly that they stirred and haunted me with a wild pleasure, falling on mine ear most like articulate sounds of things to come. So gazed I till the soothing things I dreamt lulled me to sleep, and sleep prolonged my dreams. And so I brooded all the following morn, awed by the stern preceptor's face, mine eye fixed with mixed study on my swimming book, save if the door half opened and I snatched a hasty glance, and still my heart leapt up. For still I hoped to see the stranger's face, townsman or aunt or sister more beloved, my playmate when we both were clothed alike. Dear babe, that sleep is cradled by my side, whose gentle breathings, heard in this deep calm, fill up the indispersed vacancies and momentary pauses of the thought. My babe, so beautiful! It thrills my heart with tender gladness, thus to look at thee, and think that thou shalt learn far other lore, and in far other scenes. For I was reared in the great city, pent mid cloisters dim, and saw naught lovely but the sky and stars. But thou, my babe, shall wander like a breeze by lakes and sandy shores, beneath the clouds, which image in their bulk both lakes and shores, and mountain crags. So shalt thou see and hear the lovely shapes and sounds intelligible of that eternal language, which thy God utters, who from eternity doth teach himself in all, and all things in himself. Great universal teacher, he shall mould thy spirit, and by giving make it ask. Therefore all seasons shall be sweet to thee, whether summer clothe the general earth with greenness, or the redbreast sit and sing betwixt the tufts of snow on the bare branch of mossy apple tree, while the nigh thatch smokes in the sun thaw, whether the eaves-drops fall, heard only in the trances of the blast, or if the secret ministry of frost shall hang them up in silent icicles, quietly shining to the quiet moon. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Good Night by Percy Bysshe Shelley. Read for LibriVox.org by Ike Sher. Good night? Ah, no. The hour is ill which severs those that should unite. Let us remain together still. Then it will be good night. How can I call the sweet night good, though thy sweet wishes wing its flight? Be it not said, thought, understood, then it will be good night. To hearts which near each other move, from evening close to morning light, the night is good, because, my love, they never say good night. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Hark, Aaron, the blast is blown, by Gerald Griffin. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. Hark, Aaron, the blast is blown on the heath that summons thy sons to conquest or death. The lines are all set in fearful array, and thou must be saved or ruined today. Like the flood of the winter, resistless and grand, forth rushed to the shock the strength of the land, and hearty and free was the ready halloo that answered the call of Brian Boru. Oh, trust not that form so aged and dear, amid the wild crash of target and spear. Bright star of the field and light of the hall, our ruin is sure if Brian should fall. Like the waves of the west that burst on the rock, the hosts at the morning rushed to the shock. But ere his last beam was quenched in the sea, the raven was quelled and Aaron was free. Yet hushed be the sound of trumpet and drum, as silent as death let victory come. for he at whose call the chieftains arose, all bleeding and cold, was found at the close, and Erin is sad, though burst in her chain, and loud was the wail that rose o'er the plain, for victory cost more tears on that shore than ever defeat or ruin before. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Haunted Tram by P.G. Woodhouse. Read for LibriVox.org by Tom Merritt. Ghost of the towers, the grange, the court. Ghost of the castle keep. Ghost of the finicking high life sort, are growing a trifle cheap. But here's a spook of another stamp. No thin theatrical sham, but a spectre who fears not dirt nor damp. He rides on a London tram. By the curious glance of a mortal eye he is not seen, he's heard. His steps go a-creeping, creeping by. He speaks but a single word. You may hear his feet, you may hear them plain, for it's odd in a ghost, they crunch. You may hear the whir of his rattling chain, and the ting of his ringing punch. The gathering shadows of night fall fast. The lamps in the street are lit. To the roof have the eerie footsteps passed, where the outside passengers sit. To the passenger's side has the spectre paced. For a moment he halts, they say. Then a ring from the punch at the unseen waist, and the footsteps pass away. That is the tale of the haunted car. And if on that car you ride, you won't, believe me, have journeyed far ere the spectre seeks your side. Aye, all unseen by your seat he'll stand, and unless it's a wig, your hair will rise at the touch of his icy hand and the sound of his whispered "Fair" at the end of the trip when you're getting down, and you'll probably simply fly. Just give the conductor half a crown. Ask who is the ghost and why, and the man will explain with bated breath, and point your moral thus: "He's a poor young bloke what was crushed to death by people as fought as they didn't ought for seats on a crowded bus." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Horseman and the Lake of Constance by Gustav Schwab, translated by Alfred Baskerville. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgate Novelist. The horseman rides in the valley's glow, the sunbeam glistens on fields of snow, the sweat drop falls as he speeds to gain the Lake of Constance ere day doth wane, to pass with his steed in the ferry o'er, and land ere night on the further shore. On rugged path, with mettlesome steed, o'er brambles and stones he gains the mead. The mountains quitted, he sees the land extend like a snow-white sheet of sand. Behind him town and hamlet wane, and smooth is the path of the level plain. Not a hill around, not a house he sees. The rocks have vanished, no shrubs nor trees. A league hath he won, a second, a third. Aloft is the cry of the solan goose heard.
the water-hen soars on rustling wing. No other sounds through the stillness ring. No wanderer can his eye behold, to point out the path his steps should hold. On, as on velvet or yielding snow. Oh, when will the murmuring waters glow? The day hath waned. Through the gloom of night, in the distance, glimmers a taper's light. Mid the fog peers tree upon tree anew. Dark mountains limit the distant view. Again over stone and thorn he rides, then digs his spurs in the horse's sides. The dogs at the steed and his rider bay. The village hearth glows with inviting ray. Oh, welcome, fair maid, at the window, say, to the lake, how far, I pray? The maiden gazed with wondering eye. Both ferry and lake behind thee lie, and were it not bound by its icy crust, I should say thou hadst quitted the boat but just. The stranger shuddered in dread suspense. Yon plain behind, I have ridden thence. The maiden uplifted her arms and spake, Great God, thou hast ridden across the lake. The hoofs of thy steed have knocked at the grave, in the gulf of death, the fathomless wave. Did the billows beneath thee not vent their wrath? Broke not with a crash thy icy path? Thou wert not the prey of the silent brood, of the ravenous pike, in the chilly flood? She calls forth the village the tale to hear. The gathering groups of boys draw near. The dames and the sires crowd round the spot. Rejoice, O fortunate man, at thy lot! Come into the stove, to the steaming dish. Break bread at our board, and eat of our fish. The rider, transfixed upon his steed, unto the first word alone gave heed. His heart stood still, and on end his hair. The horrors behind him still grimly stare. His eye sees naught but the gulf profound. His mind sinks down to the deep, deep ground. Like rending ice in his ear it roars. From his brow in torrents the cold sweat pours. He sighs, falls from his steed to the ground. A grave on the shore of the lake he found. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Have a horrifying Halloween.
If, by Rudyard Kipling. Read for LibriVox.org by Caveat. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster, but treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings, and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much. if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Lament of the Old Woman of Beara, a selection from ancient Irish poetry, translated by Kuno Meyer, read for LibriVox.org by Amanda Chandler. Ebb tide to me as of the sea, old age causes me reproach. Though I may grieve thereat, happiness comes out of fat. I am the old woman of Beara, an ever-new smock I used to wear. Today, such is my mean estate, I wear not even a cast-off smock. It is riches ye love, it is not men. In the time when we lived, it was men we loved. Swift chariots and steeds that carried off the prize, their day of plenty has been a blessing on the king who lent them. My body with bitterness has dropped towards the abode we know. When the Son of God deems it time, let him come to deliver his behest. My arms, when they are seen, are bony and thin. Once they would fondle, they would be round glorious kings. When my arms are seen, and they bony and thin, they are not fit, I declare, to be uplifted over comely youths. The maidens rejoice when May Day comes to them. For me, sorrow is meeter, for I am wretched. I am an old hag. I hold no sweet converse. No wethers are killed for my wedding feast. My hair is all but gray. The mean veil over it is no pity. I do not deem it ill that a white veil should be on my head. Time was when many cloths of every hue bedecked my head, as we drank the good ale. The stone of the kings on Thevin, the chair of Ronan in Mregan, 'tis long since storms have reached them. The slabs of their tombs are old and decayed. The wave of the great sea talks aloud. Winter has arisen. Fearmid, the son of Mu, today I do not expect on a visit. I know what they are doing. They row and row across the reeds of the ford of Alma. Cold is the dwelling where they sleep. 'Tis, O my God, to me today, whatever will come of it, I must take my garment, even in the sun. The time is at hand that shall renew me. Youth's summer in which we were, I have spent with its autumn. Winter age, which overwhelms all men, to me has come its beginning. Amen, woe is me, every acorn has to drop. After feasting by shining candles, to be in the gloom of a prayer house. I had my day with kings, drinking mead and wine. Today I drink whey-water among shriveled old hags. I see upon my cloak the hair of old age. My reason has beguiled me. Gray is the hair that grows through my skin. 'Tis thus I am an old hag. The flood wave and the second ebb tide, they have all reached me, so that I know them well. The flood wave will not reach the silence of my kitchen. Though many are my company in the darkness, a hand has been laid upon them all. O happy the isle of the great sea, which the flood reaches after the ebb. As for me, I do not expect flood after ebb to come to me. There is scarce a little place today that I can recognize. What was on flood is all on ebb. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Man Said to the Universe by Stephen Crane. Read for LibriVox.org by D. Light. A man said to the universe, "Sir, I exist." "However," replied the universe, "the fact has not created in me a sense of obligation." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Meeting of David and Jonathan by John Addington Symonds. Read for LibriVox.org by Moon Lilith. The Meeting of David and Jonathan. All day the battle raged. Ere eventide came Abner to the tent of Saul, and cried, "Wouldst thou this eve, O king, behold the boy whose single arm turned Israel's grief to joy?" "Yea," spake the king. So Abner bowed, and went forth to the sunlight from the shadowy tent, and on his spear leaned Jonathan to greet, with Saul, the coming of victorious feet. A little space was silence, while the king bowed his huge forehead black and pondering. But Jonathan, with eager eyes, afire because of this great deed, in strong desire gazed at the tent door. Then a sound was heard, of one who swiftly ran, yet scarcely stirred the withered grass on the parched sward without. And far away thundered the people's shout. The curtain rose. In poured the ruddy sun, sphering a slender stripling, dim and dun amid that glory, like an olive tree. High on a hilltop you can hardly see for all the fire behind it. Round his hair, flaming like gold, God set the golden glare, a coronal whereof the radiance smote Saul's eyes. And in the center, like a moat, swam the sweet boy's face, marvelously wan with wonder and with awe, for thinking on the miracle his sling and stone had wrought. Since now the deed was grown a thing for thought to feed on, much he pondered how the Lord had stayed him, trusting not to spear or sword. Yea, in his hand the hideous bulk he swung, with shattered forehead and with stiffening tongue thrust through that spasm-tortured lips of death, seemed like a shape of dreams that vanished when we awake. And lo, the morn is new o'er field and forest in the birth of dew. The curtain fell behind him. Then he stood in twilight at the knees of Saul, whose mood was troubled. Next he knelt and laid the head, tawny with tangled hair, with death drops red, prone 'neath the monarch's stool. Then raised his eyes, like stars forth leaning from the western skies that still hold daylight, wonderful and dim. They caught the souls of those who gazed at him. Saul loved him, but in Jonathan was stirred more love than Saul's soul held. Yet not one word as yet was spoken. Then the monarch cried, "Whose son art thou, thou young man?" He replied, "I am thy servant Jesse's son, who dwell at Bethlehem." As some still mountain well is silvered on its surface by the slow arising of the full moon orbed and low from star-set peaks impenitent, so the tone of that melodious voice, thrilling alone through the tense stillness, changed the yearning deep within the breast of Jonathan, and sleep fell from his soul. A man by love new made, his every hope upon the heart was laid of Jesse's son. Then, as he bent and burned, the eyes of David on his eyes were turned. And in that moment, their twin lives became the single splendor of one spiry flame, shooting from sundered brands to blend the might of married fires and leaped aloft with light. Yet Saul knew not thereof, for eye to eye spake thunderstrong in silence, and the cry of spirit unto spirit left no trace upon the God-illumed gazing face of David. Nor could Saul behold how wan with luster of new life was Jonathan, for Saul sat buried in a dream of fear, spurning the giant's head, and clutched his spear, feeling by throes prophetic that some doom his soul discerned not. Through the gathering gloom on God's will waited, that strong love to hate would turn, he knew not how, by bitter fate. Therefore, while thus he brooded, and thick sighs shook his vast frame, the mute, o'ermastering eyes of Jonathan drew David. Forth they went together, with firm footfall from the tent. And lo, the sun was sunken, and the dews began to fall on slumberous avenues of plane, and palm, and pine, a mighty wood where gods might dwell in whispering solitude. Thither with David, fleet of foot, and still, lest men should mar his purpose, from the hill unto the valley shadows went and ran, large in the lucent twilight, Jonathan. There, by an ancient holm oak, huge and tough, clasping the firm rock with gnarled roots and rough, he stayed their steps, and in his arms of strength took David, and for sore love found at length solace in speech, and pressure, and the breath, wherewith the mouth of yearning winnereth hearts overcharged for utterance. In that kiss, soul unto soul was knit, and bliss to bliss. Then, for the prince found bare embracement scant to stand, for token of such covenant as he would strike with David. From his waist he plucked the girdle, and his robe unlaced that fell around his loins. Next the blade, hilted with ivory and gold, he laid upon the grass before him, and his bow. These things he gave to Jesse's son, that so, wearing his raiment and his armor, he within his sight a second self might be. Nor were words wanting, for he bowed his head even to the breast of Jesse's son, and said, Nay, take them, David. Darling art thou called, darling of all men, darling of the Lord, but most my darling, mine, whose heart is thralled, whose soul is even as thy soul. Take this sword, wherewith I smote the Philistines, what time swarming they fled from Michmash, horde by horde, to Ajalon. Take this, my bow, the prime of yew bows, fashioned for an archer's hand, this mantle and this belt, wherewith I climb Saul's throne, or in the gate for judgment stand. Take all, for all I have hath fallen to thee, and I am thine. Lo, as a winter wand, flowerless and leafless, on the almond tree waiteth, till on a sudden spring doth wake the wonder of her beds to ecstasy, Soul, does my soul beneath thy beauty break her prison bands of deadness? Yea, I lean forth to thy sweetness and thy strength, to slake with dews of life, with heaven's shed light serene, the drought that still hath bound me. Till this eve I lived not, now I live. Now find how keen are those swift shafts wherewith the Lord doth cleave the hearts of lovers. I am not like thee, godlike in voice, in gesture, yet can weave kindness around thee, until the people see thou art their prince as I am, yea, till thou, my better, take and wield this sovereignty, while I beneath thy throne in homage bow, scion of Jesse, like an airy palm that nestles neath a sheltering cedar bough until her time be come. Then, strong and calm, shoots heavenward, shadowing with ascendant crest the somber roof that nursed her, dropping balm into the sable cedar's rugged breast. Shalt thou over me and mine upsoar, God sent, with gifts prophetic, and with fervor blessed beyond such lot as ours. I am content to be thy second. Let us stand together, we twain, against the world, indifferent to fate and fortune. In clear summer weather, twin eagles I have seen sailing alone the cloudless blue, twin roes upon the heather bounding. The like are we, so strong of bone, so fleet of foot, so firm of will, to raise the heathen remnant from this land, and throne Jehovah in the seat of steadfast praise. Oh, for the beauty of thy brows, my brother! Oh, for thy keen, unwavering, royal gaze! Dearer art thou than sister or than mother, than mooned eyes of maidens. For should death take thee, where in the whole world dwells another to wake my winter, and with spirit breath stir the sealed fountains of my slumbering life? Dear to my heart is she who tarrieth now at the tent door for my feet, the wife whose breasts are built with beauty as a tower. Dear is the damsel I have gained in strife, and soothed and tended like a stricken flower, till she too loved me. But this love, this wonder, that leaps upon me with a warrior's power, whose eyes are lightning, and whose voice is thunder, wherein the flesh is not, the heart's life all, who rives the crystal walls of heaven asunder, who welds my soul to thine, a willing thrall. This love, this life, this word of living God, lo, David, he is Lord. He bids us fall here in this place upon the hallowed sod, to swear a sacrament and solemn vow. Stretch forth, I prithee thee, stretch thy shepherd's rod. See, it is broken. This is mine. Take thou that part. Neither time nor chance shall sever the troth that we have plighted. Brow to brow, let us pace forth to live one soul forever. So from his heart spake Jonathan. The trees waved their still summits in the evening breeze, and all around was holy. Then between the leafy chasms of that cleft ravine came sound of dance and timbrels. Maidens sang, and with their shrill replies the valleys sang. Saul has slain his thousands, so cried the choir, and David his 10,000s. Like a fire, the infernal triumph flooding flew from lip to lip. But even fainter grew the cry for Saul, while David's name, more clear o'er lute and viol, smote the listening air. Saul, in his tent, was stirred. What more remains but that he take the kingdom for his pains? And on the eyes of Jonathan there fell visions of love to hate more deep than hell, turned in a breast rebellious, of pure love forced to fly forth, a weak and wandering dove, o'er the wild waste of water, for he knew Saul's soul. Thus homeward fared they through the dew. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Midnight Review by Josef Christian Seydlitz, translated by Alfred Baskerville, read for LibriVox.org by Newgate Novelist. At dead of night the drummer from out his grave awakes, and with his drum parading, his wonted round he takes. His arms all bare and fleshless in eddying circles flew, and beat the roll with vigour, the larum and tattoo. Oh, strange and loud resounded that drum amidst the gloom. The warriors that slumbered awaken in their tomb. And they who sleep congealing mid northern ice and snow, and they who lie in Italia where scorching summers glow, and they whom the Nile's slime covers, and Araby's glowing sand, from out their graves arising, all take their arms in hand. The trumpeter at midnight quits too his grave to blow, his blast so shrill and piercing, and rideth to and fro. There, coming on spectral chargers, the ghastly dead behold, the blood-stained ancient squadrons, with weapons manifold. The grinning skulls so ghastly, beneath their helmets peer, in their bony hands uplifted, their gleaming swords appear. At midnight's ghostly hour, the chieftain quits his grave, advances, slowly riding, amid his chosen brave. No plume his helm adorneth, his garb no regal pride, and small is the polished sabre that's girded to his side. The moon shines bright, illuming the plain with silver rays. That chief with the plumeless helmet his warrior host surveys. Their ranks their arms presenting, then shoulder arms anew, and pass with music's clangour before him in review. The generals and marshals round in a circle stand, the chieftain whispers softly to one at his right hand. From rank to rank resounding, it fleeth o'er the plain. La France, this is their watchword, the password, Sainte Helene. Thus at the midnight hour, in the Elysian plain, the dead and mighty Caesar reviews his warrior train. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Have a very spooky Halloween.
Misgiving by Robert Frost. Read for LibriVox.org by Joanna Michael Hoyt. all crying, "We will go with you, O wind!" The foliage follow him, leaf and stem. But a sleep oppresses them as they go, and they end by bidding him stay with them. Since ever they flung abroad in spring, the leaves had promised themselves this flight, who now would fain seek sheltering wall, or thicket, or hollow place for the night. And now they answer his summoning blast with an ever vaguer and vaguer stir, or at utmost a little reluctant whirl that drops them no further than where they were. I only hope that when I am free, as they are free, to go in quest of the knowledge beyond the bounds of life, it may not seem better to me to rest. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
My Spirit is of Pensive Mould, by Gerald Griffin. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. My spirit is of pensive mould. I cannot laugh as once of old, when sporting o'er some woodland scene, a child I trod the dewy green. I cannot sing my merry lay, as in that past unconscious day, for time has laid existence bare, and shown me sorrow lurking there. I would I were the lonely breeze that mourns among the leafless trees, that I might sigh from morn till night o'er vanished peace and lost delight. I would I were the heavy shower that falls in spring on leaf and bower, that I might weep the livelong day for erring man and hope's decay. For all the woe beneath the sun, for all the wrong to virtue done, for every soul to falsehood gained, for every heart by evil stained, for man by man endurance held, for early dreams of joy dispelled, for all the hope the world awakes in youthful hearts and after breaks. But still, though hate and fraud and strife have stained the shining web of life, sweet hope the glowing woof renews in all its old enchanting hues. Flow on, thou shining stream, beyond life's dark and changeful dream. There is a hope, there is a joy, this faithless world can ne'er destroy. Sigh on, ye gentle winds, for stainless hearts and faithful minds. There is a bliss abiding true, that shall not pass and die like you. Shine on, thou glorious sun, when day his latest course has run. On sinless hearts shall rise a light that ne'er shall set in gloomy night. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Night by Joseph von Eichendorff, 1788 to 1857. Read for LibriVox.org. Night. I wander through the peaceful night, and silently the pale moon's light athwart the banks of dark clouds creeps. Now and then in the vale awakes the nightingale, and then again all nature sleeps. How wondrous the night's music seems, the distant sound of flowing streams, the gentle shivering of the leaves perplex my every thought. My utterances are wrought like fitful sighs a slumberer heaves. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
No, by Thomas Hood. Read for LibriVox.org by Joanna Michael Hoyt. No sun, no moon, no morn, no noon, no dawn, no dusk, no proper time of day. no sky, no earthly view, no distance looking blue, no road, no street, no t'other side the way, no end to any row, no indications where the crescents go, no top to any steeple, no recognitions of familiar people, no courtesies for showing 'em, no knowing 'em. To travelling at all, no locomotion, no inkling of the way, no notion, no go by land or ocean, no mail, no post, no news from any foreign coast, no park, no ring, no afternoon gentility, no company, no nobility, no warmth, no cheerfulness, no healthful ease, no comfortable feel in any member, no shade, no shine, no butterflies, no bees, no fruits, no flowers, no leaves, no birds. November. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Nymph's Reply to the Shepherd by Sir Walter Raleigh. Read for LibriVox.org by Celia Adjabu. If all the world and love were young, and truth in every shepherd's tongue, these pretty pleasures might move me, to live with thee and be thy love. Time dries the flocks from field to fold, when rivers rage and rocks grow cold, and Philemon becometh dumb, the rest complains of cares to come. The flowers do fade in wanton fields, to wayward winter reckoning yields. A honey tongue, a heart of gall, is fancy's spring, but sorrow's fall. Thy gowns, thy shoes, thy bed of roses, thy cap, thy kirtle, and thy posies, soon break, soon wither, soon forgotten, in folly ripe, in reason rotten. Thy belt of straws and ivy buds, thy coral claps and sombre studs, all these in me no means can move, to come to thee and be thy love. But could youth last and love still breed, had joys no date nor age no need, then these delights in my mind might move, to live with thee and be thy love. End of The Nymph's Reply to the Shepherd. This recording is in the public domain.
October's Party by George Cooper. Read for LibriVox.org by Ike Sher. October gave a party, the leaves by hundreds came, the chestnuts, oaks, and maples, and leaves of every name. The sunshine spread a carpet, and everything was grand. Miss Weather led the dancing, Professor Wind the band. The chestnuts came in yellow, the oaks in crimson dressed, the lovely Miss Maple in scarlet looked their best. All balanced to their partners and gaily fluttered by. The sight was like a rainbow new fallen from the sky. Then in the rustic hollow at hide and seek they played. The party closed at sundown, and everybody stayed. Professor Wind played louder, they flew along the ground, and then the party ended in jolly hands around. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Old Books Are Best by Beverly Chew. Read for LibriVox.org by Ike Sher. Old books are best. With what delight does Faithorn Fessett greet our sight on frontispiece or title page of that old time, when on the stage sweet Nell set Rowley's heart alight. And you, O friend, to whom I write, must not deny, even though you might, through fear of modern pirates' rage, old books are best. What though the print be not so bright, the paper dark, the binding slight? Our author, be he dull or sage, returning from that distant age, so lives again, we say of right, old books are best. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
All Letters by Norman Rowland Gale. Read for LibriVox.org by Maria Agustina Bon. Last night some yellow letters fell from out a script I found by chance. Among them was the silent ghost, the spirit of my first romance, and in a faint blue envelope, a withered rose long lost to dew, bore witness to the dashing days, when love was large and wits were few. Yet standing there all worn and grey, the teardrops quivered in my eyes, to think of youth unshaken front, the forehead lifted to the skies. How rough a hill my eager feet flung backward when upon its crest I saw the flutter of the lace. The wind awoke on Helen's breast. How thornless were the roses then, when fresh young eyes and lips were kind, when Cupid in her porgies proved how true the tale that love is blind. But red and white and poverty would only mate while shone the May. Then came a bag of golden crowns, and jingled red and white away. Grown old and niggard of romance, I wince not much at aught askew, and often ask my favorite cat, what else had red and white to do? And here's the bud that rose and sank, a crimson island on her breast. Why should I burn it? Once again, hide, rose, and dream. God send me rest. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Poetry, A Daily Bread by Henry Ellison. Read for LibriVox.org by Caveat. O Muse, thy nourishment, which unto some is but as manna in the wilderness, found but in seasons of their strange distress and sorrows, which unseal lips elsewhere dumb, and make the waters in dry places come, the heart's Castilian springs. To me is less than this, yet more, the daily bread I bless, and live on, household bread, and made at home. And if, with no profane comparison, reader, I break and offer it to thee, 'tis as a sacrament, a sublime one, the sacrament of man's humanity, of which partaking I would have thee none, but as thy brethren view, whate'er they be. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. This is a LibriVox recording. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as some one gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door, "only this and nothing more." Distinctly I remember it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow. Sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels name Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now to still the beating of my heart I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door." This it is and nothing more. Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door. This I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there and nothing more. Deep into the darkness peering long, I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token. and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, Lenore? Then I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, Lenore! Merely this and nothing more. Back into the chamber, turning all my soul within me, burning soon again, I heard a tapping, somewhat louder than before. Surely, said I, surely this is something at my window lattice. Let me see, then, what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind and nothing more. Open here I flung the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter, and there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obedient made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, perched and sat and nothing more. Then this ebony bird, beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore, though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly, grim, and ancient raven wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Which I marvelled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevance bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was pleased with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such name as nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing further than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than mothered. Other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, nevermore, startled at the stillness broken by reply so apt spoken. Doubtless, said I, what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore, of nevermore. But the raven still, beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grime, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fury eyes now burn into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamp light gloated o'er, but whose velvet violet lining with the lamp light glowing o'er she shall press nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen sunset swung by seraphim, whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee, respite, and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff, this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempered sent, or whether tempest tossed, thee here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted. Tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Aidenn it shall clasp a sainted maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Clasp a rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be the word our sign in parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked, upstarting, get thee back in the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plum as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamp light o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out the shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. End of The Raven. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain.
Say not the struggle not availeth, by Arthur Hugh Clough. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. Say not the struggle not availeth, the labor and the wounds are vain, the enemy faints not nor faileth, and as things have been they remain. If hopes were dupes, fears may be liars. It may be, in yon smoke concealed, your comrades chase e'en now the flyers, and but for you possess the field. For while the tired waves, vainly breaking, seem here no painful inch to gain, far back, through creeks and inlets making, comes silent, flooding in the main. And not my eastern windows only, when daylight comes in the light. In front the sun climbs slow, how slowly, but westward look, the land is bright. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Song of Israel by Lionel Johnson. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. To the Reverend Stuart Headlam. Praise ye him with virginals and organs. Praise ye him with timbrel and flute. Come from the field, glorify his temple with red corn, with the ripe first fruit. He is God who brought us out from Egypt, gave us lands and vineyard and oil. He is God who made the kings of Canaan, made their kingdom to be our spoil. Praise ye him with psaltery and cymbal, praise ye him with viol and harp. Through the wilderness, through the rough places led he us, for whom death grew sharp. Sinai with thunders and with voices praised our God, the giver of law. Jordan stayed the rushing of his waters, Israel passed over and saw the plenty, saw the land of promise, saw and praised him, the Lord of lords, King of armies, terrible and holy. light to our eyes, and strength to our swords. Where be now the gods of all nations? Where is Baal? Where Ashtaroth? Fallen, fallen before the God of Jacob. None withstood the day of his wrath. Praise ye him with virginals and organs. Praise ye him with music and voice. Praise the name of the Lord God Jehovah. Praise him, ye tribes his choice. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Tempest by Gustav Schwab. Translated by Alfred Baskerville. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgate Novelist. Great-grandmother, grandmother, mother and child, in the chamber together the hours beguiled. The child plays, the mother on jewels intent. The grandmother spins, great-grandmother bent by the stove sits in the armchair. How sultry and glowing the air! Thus the child, "Tomorrow's a holiday. How on the green sward I'll dance and play! Oh, how will I trip o'er hill and dale, and gather sweet flowers in the vale! I love the green meads and dells. Hear ye how the thunder swells?" Spake the mother, "Tomorrow's a holiday, then will we all feast at the banquet gay. My festival garb will I prepare. Life also hath joy as well as care. The sun will then glow in the dells. Hear ye how the thunder swells?" The grandmother said, "'Tis a holiday tomorrow, but I have no holiday. The raiment I spin, the meal I prepare. Oh, life is allied with toil and care. Happy he whom his duty impels. Hear ye how the thunder swells?" Great-grandmother spake, "'Tis a holiday tomorrow, but rather to die I'll pray. I cannot sing, and I cannot jest, no longer provide or toil for the rest. Then wherefore burden the world? Saw ye the bolt of thunder hurled? They hear it not, they behold not the sight. The chamber flames like a sea of light. Great-grandmother, grandmother, mother and child, together were struck by the lightnings wild. One flash, 4 corpses there lay, and tomorrow's a holiday. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Have a terrifying Halloween.
Thomas Rymer and Queen of Elfland, a traditional Scottish ballad, read for LibriVox.org by Amanda Chandler. True Thomas lay o'er yon grassy bank, and he beheld a lady gay, a lady that was brisk and bold, come riding o'er the ferny brae. Her skirt was of the grass-green silk, her mantle of the velvet fine. At ilka tet of her horse's mane hung 50 silver bells and 9. True Thomas he took off his hat, and bowed him low down till his knee. All hail, thou mighty Queen of Heaven, for your peer on earth I never did see. Oh no, True Thomas, she says, that name does not belong to me. I am but the Queen of fair Elfland, and I'm come here for to visit thee. But ye mine go with me now, Thomas, True Thomas, ye mine go with me, for ye mine serve me 7 years, through weal or way as may chance to be. She turned about her milk-white steed, and took True Thomas up behind, and I, whene'er her bridle rang, the steed flew swifter than the wind. For 40 days and 40 nights he wade through red blood to the knee, and he saw neither sun nor moon, but heard the roaring of the sea. Oh, they rade on and further on, until they came to a garden green. Light down, ye lady free, some of that fruit let me pull to thee. Oh no, true Thomas, she says, that fruit might not be touched by thee, for all the plagues that are in hell light on the fruit of this country. But I have a loaf here in my lap, likewise a bottle of claret wine, and now ere we go farther on, we'll rest awhile, and ye may dine. When he had eaten and drunk his fill, lay down your head upon my knee. The lady said, ere we climb yon hill, and I will show you fair leas 3. O see not ye yon narrow road, so thick beset with thorns and briars? That is the path of righteousness, though after it but few inquires. And see not ye that braid road that lies across yon lily levin? That is the path of wickedness, though some call it the road to heaven. And see not ye that bonny road which winds about the ferny brae? That is the road to fair Elfland, where you and I this night mine gay. But Thomas, ye mine hold your tongue, whatever you may hear or see, for gin a word you should chance to speak, you will ne'er get back to your ain country. He has gotten a coat of the even cloth, and a pair of shoes of velvet green, and till 7 years were past and gone, true Thomas on earth was never seen. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To a Painted Lady by Alexander Brome. Read for LibriVox.org by Caveat. Leave those deluding tricks and shows, be honest and downright. What nature did to view expose, don't you keep out of sight. The novice youth may chance admire your dressings, paints, and spells, but we that are expert desire your sex was somewhat else. In your adorned face and hair what virtue could you find, if women were like angels fair, and every man were blind? You need no pains or times to waste to set your beauties forth, with oils and paint and drugs that cost more than the face is worth. Nature herself her own work does, and hates all needless arts, and all your artificial shows disgrace your natural parts. Your flesh and blood, and so are we, let flesh and blood alone, to love all compounds hateful be, give me the pure or none. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Excerpt from The Washer of the Ford by Fiona MacLeod. Read for LibriVox.org by Amanda Chandler. There is a lonely stream afar in a lone dim land. It hath white dust, for sure it has, white bones bestrew the strand. The only thing that liveth there is a naked leaping sword. But I, who a seer am, have seen the whirling hand of the washer of the ford. A shadowy shape of cloud and mist, of gloom and dusk, she stands. The washer of the ford, she laughs at times, and strews the dust through the hollow of her hands. She counts the sins of all men there, and slays the red-stained horde. The ghost of all the sins of men must know the whirling sword of the washer of the ford. She stoops and laughs when in the dust she sees a writhing limb. Go back into the ford, she says, and hither and thither swim. Then I shall wash you white as snow, and shall take you by the hand, and slay you here in the silence, with this my whirling brand, and trample you into the dust of this white, windless sand. This is the laughing word of the washer of the ford along that silent strand. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Washing the Dishes by Christopher Morley. Read for LibriVox.org by Tom Merritt. When we on simple rations sup, how easy is the washing up? But heavy feeding complicates the task by soiling many plates. And though I grant that I have prayed that we might find a serving maid, I'd scullion all my days, I think, to see her smile across the sink. I wash, she wipes. In water hot, I souse each dish and pan and pot, while Taffy mutters, purrs, and begs, and rubs himself against my legs. The man who never in his life has washed the dishes with his wife, or polished up the silver plate, he still is largely celibate. One warning. There is certain ware that must be handled with all care. The Lord himself will give you up if you should drop a willow cup. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
When Filled with Thoughts of Life's Young Day by Gerald Griffin. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. When filled with thoughts of life's young day, alone in distant climes we roam, and year on year has rolled away since last we viewed our own dear home. Oh, then at evening's silent hour, in chamber lone or moonlight bower, how sad on memory's listening ear come long-lost voices sounding near, like the wild chime of village bells heard far away in mountain dells. But oh, for him, let kind hearts grieve, his term of youth and exile o'er, who sees in life's declining eve, with altered eyes, his native shore, with aching heart and weary brain, who treads those lonesome scenes again, and backward views these sunny hours, when first he knew those ruined bowers, and hears in every passing gale some best affection's dying wail. Oh, say what spell of power serene can cheer that hour of sharpest pain, and turn to peace the anguish keen that deeplier wounds, because in vain. 'Tis not the thought of glory won, of hoarded gold or pleasures gone, but one bright course from earliest youth, of changeless faith, unbroken truth. These turn to gold the vapors dun, that close on life's descending sun. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Winter's Approach by Paul Laurence Dunbar. Read for LibriVox.org by M. Lee. The sun hit shine and the wind hit blow. Old Brer Rabbit be a layin' low. He know that the winter time a-comin'. The hunter man he walk and wait. He walk right by Brer Rabbit's gate. He know. The dog he lick his sliverin' chop, and he tongue in his mouth go flop, flop. He rub his nose for to claw his scent. so's to tell which way dat cottontail went. The hunter's wife she set and spin a good warm coat for to wrap him in. She look at the skillet and she smile, oh my, and old Brer Rabbit got to surely fly. They know. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Wyoming by Fitzgreen Halleck. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. Thou comest in beauty on my gaze at last, on Susquehanna's side, fair Wyoming, image of many a dream in hours long past, when life was in its bud and blossoming, and waters gushing from the fountain spring of pure enthusiast thought dimmed my young eyes, as by the poet borne on unseen wing, I breathed in fancy 'neath thy cloudless skies the summer's air, and heard her echoed harmonies. I then but dreamed, thou art before me now, in life a vision of the brain no more. I've stood upon the wooded mountain's brow, that beetles high thy lovely valley o'er. And now, where winds thy river's greenish shore, within a bower of sycamores am laid, and winds as soft and sweet as ever bore the fragrance of wild flowers through sun and shade, are singing in the trees whose low boughs press my head. Nature hath made thee lovelier than the power even of Campbell's pen hath pictured. He had woven, had he gazed one sunny hour upon thy smiling vale, its scenery with more of truth, and made each rock and tree known like old friends, and greeted from afar. And there their tales of sad reality, in the dark legends of thy border war, with woes of deeper tint than his own Gertrude's are. But where are they? The beings of the mind, the bard's creations, moulded not of clay, hearts to strange bliss and suffering assigned. Young Gertrude, Albert, Waldegrave, where are they? We need not ask. The people of today appear good, honest, quiet men enough, and hospitable too for ready pay, with manners like their roads, a little rough, and hands whose grasp is warm and welcoming, though tough. Judge Hallenbach, who keeps the toll bridge gates and the town records, is the Albert now of Wyoming, like him in church and state her Doric column, and upon his brow the thin hairs, white with 70 winters' snow, look patriarchal. Waldegrave 'twere in vain to point out here, unless in yon scarecrow that stands full uniformed upon the plain to frighten flocks of crows and blackbirds from the grain. For he would look particularly droll in his Iberian boot and Spanish plume, and be the wonder of each Christian soul, as of the birds that scare crow and his broom. But Gertrude, in her loveliness and bloom, hath many a model here, for woman's eye, in court or cottage, wheresoe'er her home, hath a heart spell too holy and too high, to be o'erpraised even by her worshipper, Poesy. There's one in the next field, of sweet 16, singing and summoning thoughts of beauty born in heaven, with her jacket of light green, love-darting eyes and tresses like the morn, without a shoe or stocking, hoeing corn. Whether, like Gertrude, she oft wanders there, with Shakespeare's volume in her bosom borne, I think is doubtful. Of the poet-player, the maiden knows no more than Cobbett or Voltaire. There is a woman, widowed, grey and old, who tells you where the foot of battle stepped upon their day of massacre. She told its tale and pointed to the spot and wept, whereon her father and 5 brothers slept shroudless, the bright dream slumbers of the brave, when all the land a funeral mourning kept. And there wild laurels planted on the grave by nature's hand, in air their pale red blossoms wave. And on the margin of yon orchard hill are marks where time-worn battlements have been, and in the tall grass traces linger still of arrowy frieze and wedged ravelin. 500 of her brave that valley green trod on the morn in soldier spirit gay, but 20 lived to tell the noonday scene, and where are now the 20? Passed away. Has death no triumph hours, save on the battle day? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.